to add a few things. While I was editing the video and stringing all the 10-minute sections together, I realized that in the beginning of the video, I described that I had a problem with the radiators, and I neglected to get into what the problem was. Um, yeah, I wanted to go over that, and I also wanted to qualify my opening statement where I was talking about this is basically a fake crisis. Yeah, first I should probably describe my background so you don't think I'm like a MAGA wearing, MAGA hat wearing Trump supporter or anything. I consider myself to be pretty left of center. Like, I voted for Jill Stein last time around. I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. Yeah, corporate left, corporate right, we have a problem. Um, yeah, I'm a veteran, but I'm not really too much on the right. I believe in Second Amendment, and I believe in that like Thomas Jefferson said, every generation or so, we need to have, in order for the republic to remain healthy, there should be a revolution. We haven't had one. Eisenhower warned us about the problem with his farewell address. He said, "Beware the military-industrial complex." We're there. The corporations have totally taken over. They've totally taken control. So now it's just basically, you have the two-party system is basically broken, and it exists only to divide the populace. So they have like partisan politics. Like the left is for the right. The hot button issue is that the left is pro-choice, and the right's like, no, you're killing babies. And then for the left, it's like, oh, you're anti-gay, and it's just they have these petty partisan kind of like issues that they use to drive a wedge in between both sides. If we could see eye to eye, we'd realize that the real problem is that it's basically class warfare. We literally have like 0.1% of the society that has 99% of the wealth. Like there was a study that was done where it was found that, like, I think it was either 4 or 6 people. They're all U.S. citizens. They have as much wealth as the bottom half of humanity. So like it was like Warren Buffett, Bill Gates. It may have been George Soros, and maybe Bezos, Jeff Bezos. So Amazon, Microsoft, Warren Buffett. He does a bunch of like financial stuff. Yeah, they got more money than the bottom half of humanity. More money than like 5 billion people on the planet. Anyhow, and I wanted to qualify my statement about this being a fake pandemic because, in terms of mortality rate, it really isn't much more deadly than like the seasonal flu. Maybe like another percentage point, like seasonal flu. Seasonal flu kills a lot of people. A lot of people don't understand that in 2018, 650,000 people succumbed to seasonal flu. 70,000 people in the U.S. succumbed to seasonal flu. The problem now with the figures that we're given is that there's two problems. One is that they're underreporting the rate of incidence of the people that actually have it. And two is that there's now a financial incentive for hospitals to basically categorize anyone who dies as being as succumbing to COVID-19 because they get $1,600 last I heard. And people are going in like, say I'm healthy, I'm vegan, I exercise, meditate, I'm doing everything correctly. 41, no problems. Say I actually come into contact with COVID-19, SARS-2, and it's in my system, but I die of heart attack, not even related to COVID-19. No symptoms have manifested. I die of something completely different, die of heart attack. If I go to the hospital and they do a post-mortem autopsy and they say, oh, he's got COVID-19, then basically the cause of death for me was COVID-19 SARS-2, not the heart attack. So this is exactly what's happening. People are dying from other causes, and they're just saying, oh no, it's COVID-19. So you have they're over-reporting the mortality rate, and there's a financial incentive to do so, because if a hospital has a COVID-19 crisis, then it opens purse strings from the federal government because it's a crisis. But we've seen this. It's like, do we have amnesia? We just need to go back to 2008, 2009 when they had the H1N1 swine flu, right? What happened with that? CDC came out with estimates saying that 2 billion people were going to get it. They said 2 billion people are going to get H1N1 swine flu. It's a big problem, right? It never happened. But then you step back and look at the bigger picture. The CDC actually owns vaccine patents. They own vaccine patents. They have a vested interest in selling vaccines. Okay, so basically the regulatory agencies that are tasked with regulating in this instance, the pharmaceutical industry, they're owned. They're owned by the pharmaceutical industry. Same thing goes for the FDA. It's basically owned by Monsanto. Yeah, in 2010, Obama appoints former CEO of Monsanto to head up the FDA. And then they come out with this testing methodology and they say, for the safety testing methodology to say that GMO corn is safe consists of a 90-day trial. It's only 90 days, right? No organism is going to develop cancerous lesions in 90 days. There was a scientist out of Italy, Dr. Severlini, who basically took the same testing methodology and fed mice GMO corn for 1 year. He just extended the test phase from 90 days to 1 year, and 95% of the mice got cancerous lesions, tumors. Let me ask you a question. Do you eat GMO corn for 90 days and stop? I mean, because it's in everything, high fructose corn syrup. But I don't want to go off on a tangent. I have a real problem with that. The problem is they've been poisoning us. You got the GMO food, the sodium fluoride. Now it's going to be mandatory vaccination. But in order for them to get mandatory vaccines into everybody, right, they need a crisis. They need a crisis, and there's going to be sufficient, demand. Oh, because everyone's going to say, we can't have COVID-19 again. We can't have the entire economy shut down for 4 or 5 months. No, we need mandatory vaccination. And then watch. This is coming next year. Bill Gates, right? Bill Gates is already talking about how he's already proposed a vaccine card or a vaccine chip or something like a tattoo. I'm not making any of this up. And so Bill Gates, you want to step back and look at this guy, Bill Gates? So the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation were sued by the African state of Kenya because their tetanus vaccine, right? Because they're going around the world with their philanthropy, their philanthropic mission. They want to save people. We so care much. We care so much about those people in Africa. Let's go save them, right? So they went over there. Check this out. Kenya, these women were getting this tetanus vaccine. Vast majority of the women that got this tetanus vaccine were rendered infertile. They could no longer have children after they got the vaccine. And they did some research, and it was due to an antigen. Some kind of antigen was added to the vaccine. So, it didn't even need to be there. This antigen did not even need to be in the vaccine. It's a tetanus vaccine. This is fact. You can look this up. This is absolute 100% fact. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation sued by Kenya because women are now infertile. And let me ask you, what does this look like to me? It looks like a test phase. They want a large test population to test this out on. What's coming next year? Mandatory vaccines. You guys can't see what's happening? You really can't see what's happening. And then also, right, we were due for an economic collapse this year. All the economists were saying, 2020 is going to be worse than 2008 because the federal deficit. They keep trying to raise the debt ceiling. You ever heard about this? We have a massive federal deficit, and they keep convening in Congress. We need to extend the debt ceiling. We need to extend the debt ceiling. Because corporate capitalism requires infinite growth in order to function. If there's no infinite growth, I want you to think about something. More and more stuff. Take any industry, be it computer parts. More computer parts need to be sold in order for that industry to remain viable. More cars need to be sold. More diapers. More diapers need to be sold. How do you sell more diapers? We need more babies. The whole thing. And you got a planet. You're on a planet with limited resources, right? What happens? What happens when corporate capitalism runs up against the hard limits of the ecosphere? It crashes. We're witnessing it. The whole system's crashing. Look at Australia, all on fire last year. It's climate change. Oh yeah, 100% climate change is happening. We're basically destroying the planet because we have a socioeconomic system that's incompatible with life. Yeah, it's absolutely incompatible with life. I'm gonna have to pause this here, and because I'm coming up on 10 minutes. I will pause it. So the elites, they rightly understand that we have a mismatch between our our population, our consumption patterns, and the ability of the planet to sustain that. It's been said that if all the third world, like, like China endeavors and they want to be like the first world, they want to eat as much meat, they all want to drive around these stupid little clown cars. You see that? This is how I get around. I see a lot of YouTubers, like this guy Greg Zalazar. He's he's a tech tuber, and they all got these cars. You got what's his face, Paul, not Paul. I forgot his name. Jay's 2 cents with his fucking Camaro ZR1. This is what I got right here. It's called a bicycle. Okay, that's it for me. But if everyone in China want to go have a clown car and have like 5 children and we're all gonna have steak and we're all gonna have pork every day, dude, you would need 5 planets. You would need the resource equivalent of 5 different planet Earths for all of the third world to have the same rate of consumption as a first worlder. That's how unsustainable this is. Anyhow, they want to depopulate. They need a crisis. Oh, and then the other part too is that we were due for an economic reset this year. So for all we know, the crisis, the quote unquote crisis, it's like a wet dream for them. It's like 9/11 on steroids. I say this as a combat veteran, 25th Infantry Division. Was in the Army for nearly 9 years, active duty. I say this as a combat veteran. 9/11 was a total inside job. If you can't see it, if you haven't done the research, you're fucking stupid. You're on full stop. You're stupid. Total inside job. Total inside job. 100%. I'm honorable, dude. Honorable discharge. 9/11 was an inside job. What's happening now makes 9/11 just pales in comparison. For me, I was thinking that the next thing after 9/11 was going to be a suitcase nuke in LA. I figured they were going to say, okay, a suitcase nuke was going to go off and they were going to pin it on Iran. That's what I thought was going to happen next. And they're going to go, okay, we got to invade Iran. We got to go into Iran. That didn't happen. This is actually even more sophisticated because look, judge them by their actions, right? What did they do right off the bat? First thing they did, they gave $4 trillion to the big banks. They said, oh, no, we need to bail out the big banks. So they gave $4 trillion immediately at the snap of a finger to the big banks, to Wall Street, right? Then what did they do next? The EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, they basically completely gutted the EPA. So now big coal and all these the worst offenders in this country, they can just dump straight toxin PCBs. Not PCB, it might be PCB. DuPont was caught dumping something really bad in some river in New York. I forget exactly what it was. Related to the manufacture of Teflon, if I remember correctly. PTFE. Yeah, DuPont was dumping PTFE directly into the river, and it was making cows sick and poisoning entire communities. Well, all those regulations that existed to prevent this are gone now, and they just cite COVID-19. Let me ask you if this makes any sense. Okay, we got COVID-19. It's allegedly a pandemic. So we're basically going to do away with all EPA rules and regulations. Does that make any sense to you? Then they deploy the National Guard because they're softening up the public. They want to soften you up into being conditioned to being told what to do, to being conditioned to being in a fucking police state. Wear your mask, social distancing, wear your mask. It's plain and clear to see what's going on. And I question the origin of this thing. They're saying it came out of a wet market in Wuhan. Meanwhile, the only virology lab in all of China is in Wuhan. And at this same virology lab, there was joint research being conducted by U.S. and Chinese virologists. And the reason why the U.S. was doing it there was because it was deemed illegal here in the U.S. like 10 years ago because it was extremely dangerous. Because they were doing what's called gain of function research. They're basically trying to make superbugs, right? Right? And then it just so happens that that's where the epicenter is of this supposed pandemic in Wuhan. So did it get out accidentally or was it let out intentionally? Because the way I see it is that my view is that this was intentional, and this gives them double plausible deniability, because they're hoping that the public, they're hoping that the extent of the public's suspicion will end at, oh, it came from the virology lab. They're hoping that the public will be like, oh, yeah, you're smarter than average. You understand that it's not the wet market. Where did it come from? It came from the virology lab. That's what they're hoping, because now they have plausible deniability. They probably let it loose there for this reason, okay? And their plan was just to basically shut down the economy. It's like controlled burn. With like firefighting, these firefighters go out there and they basically do controlled burn. They basically burn away sections of forest, of overgrowth, to prevent a massive forest fire. And that's what they're doing, because the economy is going to collapse this year. And in the face of economic collapse, they can't declare martial law. They can't give $4 trillion to the banks and get away with it. Oh, and Google and Apple we're working on this. Is crazy. It's basically a way to track everybody. And they're basically citing COVID-19. Like, we need to track everybody. And here's what they're going to have, both Google and Apple. Okay, it's going to be built into the operating system. It's not an application that you can download it and install at your discretion. No, it's going to be built into the OS. It's going to transmit over Bluetooth to other devices within your vicinity if the algorithm deduces that you are COVID-19 SARS-2 positive. And the way it'll deduce that you're positive is because they've ended end-to-end encryption in all text messaging. So all your text messages to everybody, say you get it, oh, I feel sick, I went to the doctor, they said I have COVID-19. Okay, they basically, and they can you have no privacy. They ended end-to-end encryption and text messaging because of COVID-19. You got no fucking privacy, right? So the algorithm is going to deduce that you have COVID-19, and then it's going to start broadcasting, okay, over Bluetooth to any devices, getting the device information and the user data of all the devices that you come into contact with within Bluetooth range. And both Apple and Google are saying, COVID-19, we need to have this technology. And guess what? After this so-called pandemic ends, that technology is going to remain in place. So now they can track everybody. Now they can read all your fucking text messages. They gave $4 trillion to the banks. Let's talk about the relevance of giving $4 trillion to the banks at the snap of a finger. I don't know if you noticed, but all the small to medium-sized businesses are shuttered. They're closed, and they're going bankrupt. What happens if, like, say, let's use an analogy. This is a city block, and you give me fucking $1 million, and look in your neighborhood. Say that the house in the corner is the Chinese restaurant. The next place over is the laundromat. The next place over is basically the Toyota Automotive Center, and they're all bankrupt. But you have fucking $5 million. Guess what's going to happen? You're going to buy all those businesses, and you're going to that little boutique Chinese restaurant place and that boutique coffee shop. No, that's Panda Express and Starbucks now. Do you see what's happening? Guess who owns Panda Express and Starbucks? Oh, it's fucking Wells Fargo or fucking Chase Manhattan Bank, the big banks. So they're further consolidating the wealth, funneling it upwards. Okay? That's how capitalism operates. It needs more money. It's voracious appetite for capital. They'll get it from anywhere. If they have to fucking, if it means you starve to death because you lost your job, capital doesn't give a fuck. Corporate capitalism does not give a fuck. It needs more. They want to automate. They want to fucking automate and everything. And that's the other thing now, because now they're pushing through trials of automation, and they're going to use a rationale that we need to continue to make critical components for critical infrastructure in the face of a serious pandemic. So we need to automate this entire industry. What was formerly done, like, man, I can go on and on about this, but I have to pause the video again because this is going to be a pretty lengthy addendum. They foresaw that we were going to have an economic reset this year. All the alternative economists were saying that it was going to be worse than 2008. They decided to get ahead of it because with a pandemic, they can give a bunch of money to the banks. They can completely eliminate privacy. They can fucking consolidate. They can buy up all the small businesses. But if it was just an economic crash, they could not. The people wouldn't stand for it. They would not have the support of the populace to fucking give $4 trillion to the banks, to fucking to completely eliminate end-to-end encryption in your text messaging, to basically to deploy the National Guard, what looks like martial law. I heard, if you go to certain grocery stores down in Los Angeles, they get the National Guard sitting right outside the grocery store. They're basically trying to inure. Look up the term inure, I-N-U-R. They're trying to inure everyone into getting used to being in a police state. because that's what's going to happen next. And they also want the people. So they're not going to come out, right? Because people would be suspicious if they came out and said, we need compulsory mandatory adult vaccination. People would be like, why? Well, we already have that in here in California. We got mandatory childhood vaccination. I can tell you right now, the rate of autism within 10 years is gonna go from where it is now. I heard it's like, last I heard it was like 1 in like 8 boys, the higher rate of boys is gonna go from 1 to 8 to like 1 in 4 are gonna be autistic. And and people say, oh, that's natural. That's not fucking natural. You go back 200 years, nobody had autism. Autism was extremely rare. And there's ample scientific studies showing that the aluminum and the mercury in the vaccines, they call it an adjuvant. An adjuvant is basically something that accompanies the virus. It's like a weakened virus in the vaccine. The adjuvant basically stimulates the immune response because it's so inflammatory. Because if you inject somebody with fucking mercury, if you inject, I want you, all you computer guys, I want you to think about this. Okay, that liquid metal thermal interface you use, that fucking grizzly conductinaut with a gallium, you're going to inject something that's worse than fucking gallium. You're going to inject mercury, mercury into a baby, a newborn baby. They get like 17 vaccines right off the bat. Mercury and aluminum. And the mercury is there because it stimulates the immune response. It's highly inflammatory. The weakened virus by itself may not sufficiently stimulate the immune response. But the aluminum and the mercury is not good for you. It causes mental fucking problems. Do you understand what's happening? We don't need the vaccines, dude. We don't need the vaccines. It's an industry. They want customers. How do you get more customers? You need people with physical problems. So the entire pharmaceutical industry, it's not predicated on healing people. It's predicated on masking symptoms, right? And prescribing more drugs for the contraindications for the new problems that the current drug is addressing. Because when you take a drug, it creates more problems. But well, guess what? We got a drug for the other problems that the first drug gave you. So next you're taking a cocktail of fucking drugs, okay? And your organs, you've significantly shortened the lifespan of your organs. And you step back from the whole picture. Do you know the cancer rate of people in the U.S.? It's gonna fucking shock you. The rate of cancer in the U.S. It's 50% for men and 30% for women. 1 in 3 women are going to get cancer. 1 in 2 are going to get men. Are going to get cancer. 1 in 2 men are going to get cancer. The reason why it's higher in men is because of the prevalence of prostate cancer. But what they want to do, okay, they don't give a fuck about you. You're the enemy. Okay, this whole partisan politic bullshit. It's there. It's there to divide the left and the right. Okay, it's a false left-right paradigm. If we understood that the super rich and powerful in this country were basically they have a slave system. Let me ask you if you think that this is normal. A 60-hour fucking work week. Does that sound normal to you? Working 60 hours? Because that's what it is here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Like where I live, dude, you got to work 60 hours just to be able to pay like $1,000 to live in like a 10 by 10 room that with a Filipino family, and the room was originally designed to accommodate like a child. That's how it is here in the SF Bay Area, and you got to work 50, 60 hours for that at $15 an hour. Let me ask you, is that slavery? Because we fought for the 40-hour work week. We fought for the fucking 40-hour work week. This is a slave system. This is like a gigantic penal colony. That's what's going on in this country. Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos. Okay? Do you understand what's happening? Bill Gates. They want to depopulate. They want to automate everything. There's too many fucking people. Now they understand because last year all of Australia caught on fire. Over 400 billion fucking animals died. I'm not making this up. Over 400 billion marsupials, the koalas and the kangaroos, they succumbed to the fire. Estimated at least 400 billion fucking animals died in the bushfire from last year. Right now the Arctic is on fire. The Siberian Arctic is on fire right now. It's called climate change. It's accelerating. And when the Arctic sea ice melts, there's 60 feedback loops over 60 feedback loops that are waiting to include 50 gigatons of deep sea frozen methane clathrates. Methane, which molecule per molecule is 100 times more effective as a heat trapping gas versus carbon dioxide. And all it's going to take is another 2 or 3 degrees mean surface temperature on the interior of large continents where food production happens, where all the corn, all the cereal grasses are grown, or your corn, your wheat, your soy, your sorghum. All it takes is another 2 to 3 degrees of Celsius. And those cereal grasses will no longer germinate. They won't even fucking germinate. So you're like, once the Arctic sea ice goes, which it could go this year, you're literally one growing season. It depends on when it happens. And we got no food reserves. So we're looking at global famine once the Arctic sea ice goes. And right now, the Arctic sea ice extent is the lowest it's ever been. They understand we have a human overpopulation problem. They want to depopulate. They're kind of late, and they're kind of fucked up in the way they're doing it. They're going to do it with the vaccines. Again, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation sued by the African state of Kenya because their fucking tetanus vaccine contained an antigen that didn't even need to be there that was rendering women infertile. Nearly all the women that got the vaccine can no longer have children. That's the test phase. They're going to roll that shit out here. They're going to make it mandatory. Oh, you want to renew your driver's license? Oh, your paperwork shows that you didn't get your fucking COVID-19 shot. Well, I'm sorry, but the DMV requires that if you want your driver's license, you got to get your fucking COVID-19 shot here in California and elsewhere. You guys can't see what's happening? It's clear as day. But I walk around and these idiots are with the masks on. I mean, it's a bad flu. Yeah, it's real. It's a bad flu. The mortality rate's like 3% versus 2% of the normal fucking flu. You're not going to die. If you have comorbidity factors, you're overweight, you smoke, you're diabetic, yeah, you're going to have problems. But I figured I would qualify the statement because I started the vid and I said, yeah, this is a fake pandemic, and I didn't get into it because I just didn't want to get into it. But the other part of this video I'm going to talk about here. I also wanted to show you guys how the pump sounds when it goes, sounds and looks. It's fucking awesome. When the temp probe on the GPU backplate indicates that it's 37 degrees and it goes from 40% to 100% RPM. I still can't believe this. 5-degree temp drop when those serial D5s go from 40% to 100% RPM. And the reason why I was going to talk about the problem that I noticed. Oh, and I'll show you guys too. I initially made my loop. My first loop was EK DuraClear. If you're considering getting into liquid cooling, do not ever use this shit. This DuraClear turned lime green, okay, and leached. You see this crap here? Let me see I hope I can focus in. It leached all this crap into my loop. This is plasticizer. And it basically from mostly indirect sunlight, not a lot of direct sunlight actually hit the computer. It's mostly indirect sunlight like it is right now. And that's the reason why I went with acrylic, because acrylic is more resistant to UV than PETG. I gotta pause it. So I initially went with this upgrade because I found that I just wasn't happy with the temps because I was seeing like 50C on the core. And for me, like beforehand, if you look at my previous videos, I highly doubt I have any subscribers, but I had a slim 420 here, and I had just the standard thickness, the PE360, 28 millimeter, or actually 38 millimeter thickness rad here. And I've since replaced it with the thicker CE420, which is like 45 millimeters up from 28, and the XE360, which is 60 millimeters up from 38. So I picked up about an inch here and about half an inch there. But well, this is the upgrade. I upgraded to the radiators initially because I just wasn't happy with the temperatures. I was seeing like 50 degrees core. And so I also wanted to experiment with the liquid metal, which I get into if you continue to watch the video. I get into the liquid metal. And in the process of upgrading, right, I discovered to my dismay how in need of the upgrade of replacing the radiators was. This is a really cool wallpaper skin. I want to show this. I don't have this game yet. I'm waiting for it to go on sale, Control. And I'm excited because it's got the DLSS 2.0. So, but check this out, guys. Look at how disgusting this was. That was the GPU block. Fucking dude, that was the GPU block. So it's that green stuff, right? It got, oh my God. Yeah, it got like that. And so I seen that and I'm like, yeah, I almost nearly didn't want to take apart the GPU block. I almost wanted to let that go. But after having, well, that's the conformal coating that I use around the GPU core. After I said, no, it's going to come apart. So I took it apart. This is how it looked before I cleaned it. I have the block disassembled. This is before. This is after. I did my best. I used basically a toothbrush and alcohol. A big pointer for you guys who are new to liquid cooling and don't know this. You don't want to use vinegar on nickel-plated anything. In this instance, nickel-plated copper, because it'll actually eat the nickel. And you don't want to use alcohol on acrylic. So if you can remember that, you can use vinegar on the acrylic and you can use alcohol on the nickel, but don't do vice versa. You got big problems. The alcohol on the acrylic, it'll actually weaken and embrittle the acrylic, and you could have problems. This is the after. This is how it looked. That's what I was taking out of that's off the GP block. That yellow shit there is basically what it is, the plasticizer problem. So then I deduced rather correctly that the inside of my radiators also probably look like that, and that shit's hard to get out. This is the block put back together. That's how it looks after. There's still some like subtle like hazing on the inside of the acrylic that I just couldn't get off. This is the GPU core before I applied the liquid metal, and oh, I'll hide the serial number in case I gotta do warranty. But no, so far no problems. I did have a problem with the liquid metal, and it wasn't because liquid metal had escaped anywhere other than the GPU core that I accidentally got any on the PCB. I had a problem where, unlike like conventional thermal interface material, the core is no longer isolated from the back plate and potentially other components on the PCB. And I think that there was some shorting going on because I lost like 100 megahertz on the memory. It's stable now. Every morning I've been running basically Port Royal. Oh, I got this one. And I have 1 millimeter coming because I'm going to put 1 millimeter on the memory modules because MEM2 is running like, seems like 7-8 degrees hotter than the other memory banks. Yeah, that's the conductor knot. This is first getting the radiator in. Oh yeah, the fitment. I love it. It looks really nice with the fans on the top. Yeah, noise blockers. Oh, that's food. Oh, that's how it looks at 6:30 in the morning. Oh, that's my new T thing. Yeah, I got a new T thing. Oh, yeah, here we go. Leak testing. Oh my God, this leak tester saved my loop. It literally saved my loop. I had a few times where it wasn't holding pressure. Like I go up to 1 bar because I got 2 D5s. I don't actually go to 1 bar. I go to 0.75 bar. I should take that back. 0.75 bar. I had a few times where I was trying to get to hold of 0.75 bar and it was slowly going down, and I'm sitting right here in front of the computer, and dude, right as I'm sitting here, one of these tubes popped out. I couldn't fucking believe it. I was like, oh my God, if that was liquid and I didn't do like the pressure test beforehand, I would have been that would have been the end of my computer. It actually did that to me twice, and when it did that to me, I realized that these 90-degree angle bends weren't, these bends here, like now you see that they're proper 90 degrees, but before, like it wasn't 90 degrees, it was like I'm gonna say like 110, maybe 110 degree bend, and just like a subtle bend, and that subtle bend, like you want tension, you want like a proper 90-degree angle bend so that there's tension within the fittings. That's what I learned doing this. I actually had to redo all of the bends with the exception of this one here that goes from the CPU out to the distro plate. But I have other pictures here I want to show you guys. I want to show you how I mounted the 90 millimeter fans on the bottom. Let's see if it'll show that. Okay. Oh, yeah, the fitment was awesome. Like, I'm talking, I have 2 millimeters of clearance there. Where? Oh yeah, here we go. These are the leftover 90 millimeter fans from the Kraken G10. You know, NZXT Kraken G10 GPU AIO brackets. I had these hanging around, and I normally before I put the the first time I had the Serial D5 in, I had it like that, and then I moved it around. Didn't like the way it looked like that. Um, but yeah, that's underneath. Right? That's underneath where, and the D5 sits above that, the short D5s. So that's intaking, yeah, just like that. Just like that. I thought that was pretty cool that I pulled that off. Yeah, but what I want to show you guys is how awesome it sounds, or the performance. Oh yeah, and how it sounds. But I'm going to set up, let's see, what are we going to do? I'll just go Port Royal stress test, because that induces a sufficient stress. Oh, I want to show you guys this too. Dude. Okay, I'll be right there. This is crazy. Yesterday I was like just only mildly stoned, and I've been playing F1 2019, right? And dude, I fucking can't believe this. For the first time, I figured I would I would dabble with multiplayer. I've yet to play multiplayer in this game. And I figured, yeah, I'm gonna try it. And I just so happened to be like in the point in the single player campaign where I'm racing in Catalonia, Spain. And this is where the track where this next upcoming multiplayer event is in Catalonia, Spain. So I go weekly event, right? And check this out. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, it starts in 8 hours. Is it going to show me where I'm at? Oh. No, I don't want to go. I don't want to discard and take a hit. I basically placed at the top of this, dude. I was at the very top. Oh yeah. Is this show here? No. Where? It'd be cool if I could pull up the information. Does it show placement? Oh, geez. Hold on. Placement. Geez. Well, it's not showing it now. I don't know how to access information. But anyways, I placed, dude, first in qualifying. I got, yeah, top of the thing in qualifying. And let's see, will it show here? No. Okay. Doesn't show. I guess it doesn't show the timings. That's weird. What's bizarre? Huh. But I got no assists on. I'm playing in the category where there's no assists on. Braking assist off, anti-lock brakes off, traction control off. I didn't know this before playing this game, and I recommend anyone out there that's interested in this game, dude, Formula One, they have no ABS. They have no anti-lock brakes. They have no traction control. It's crazy, dude. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, it's not showing, but I placed at the top of like 25 of the players. And I did that while mildly stoned. I'm going to pause the video again. Port Royal, I'm going to show you how the pump sounds. Oh, 3D Mark. This one, I like Port Royal because the frames are only like 48 FPS, and I don't have to worry about disabling G-Sync for this. Whereas Time Spy, I always have to go in and disable G-Sync, and it's just a hassle. So we do stress tests. Port Royal stress tests. Run stress tests. Well, let me get baseline. Reset this. Another thing it's weird about Port Royal is that like MSI AB, the on-screen display is like fucked up for some reason. I don't know why. But yeah, so initially this was just an upgrade to get my temps down. And then I discovered that I had I knew I had a plasticizer problem, but then I was like, yeah, you know what? I really have a fucking plasticizer problem. So everything out of the old loop is gone. There's still probably some plasticizer residue, unfortunately, inside the distro plate. But all the tubing's been replaced, and both rads have been replaced. And I cleaned both blocks. I cleaned the monoblock as well. And just, I'm so happy with this. Like, And I'm also happy with the fact that I managed to basically stop the performance degradation that I was experiencing with the liquid metal. Like something was shorting, something was either being conveyed from or to that GPU core to either another component on the PCB or possibly, like I was trying to explain in my other video, I would come in and I used to be in the habit of like grounding myself as soon as I come in, like I touch the chassis. Because you have a carpet and there's static electricity. But I came in a few times. I'm like, I wonder how hot the backplate is, and I would touch here, and there's possibly I may have conveyed static electricity to the GPU core. But reverting to just, I went back to GC Extreme, and this is like day 3 now of Port Royal. Whoa, oh shit! Why is it running so weird? This is interesting. 5 FPS. Good lord, what is going on here? Is it because I still have? Oh, I have Oh, that's right. I got Shadow the Terminator running. Okay, forget Port Royal. I got Shadow. I had this open the whole time. Okay, we'll let this go. I had this open. This is with RT on. 87 FPS. We're at 40. We're at 40 on the GPU core. And down there, the 4th row. Where you have a second value to the right, EC temp 2, that's the thermal probe that I've attached to the GPU backplate. And the second value, the second 32 there, which should go up shortly, that's the temp of the backplate. What's crazy is how hot that backplate gets. Like if core gets to 45 degrees, dude, yesterday when it was warmer ambient, that backplate actually got up to 44 degrees Celsius. I could not believe it. That backplate gets piping hot. I have a replacement Noctua fan coming in, which I think will help with that. Because right now, I don't like running this Corsair SP140. Oh, that's not an SP, that's an AF. That's an Airflow 140. That fan sounds like really bad, above 40% RPM. It sounds like a refrigerator fan or something. But I have a Noctua. They're NH A14 Chromux. It's the silent fan, and I intend to put that there, and I'm going to run that along with I'm going to run it with these. So it's going to be running off like a 2-to-1 fan header off the motherboard, and I'm going to have the noise blockers and that go to 60% RPM when the water temp sensors come in, and I'm going to have one of the water temp sensors is going to be used for those. But this is how it sounds with like full load. With the case open. The case closed, you can't even hear it. This is at 40% RPM, but even at 100% RPM, these pumps sound like, I'm not even kidding, like half as loud as that DDC at 100% RPM. That DDC at 100% RPM was insane. Oh, it's about to do it. So we're at 36 on that back plate. When that back plate hits 38, it's going to go from 41. Well, we're going to see a drop. I've already showed the drop later on in this video because I'm probably going to put this at the front of the video. Okay, let's go look. We're gonna see a drop here. But in Port Royal, I'm gonna be quiet. I should probably mute the game. It's really cool when this kicks on. Come on, 38 degrees. You can do it. Oh, wow. It's taking some time. Probably because I have the case door open. Come on. You were at 37 when I came over here. Oh, Lord. You're taking some time. Watch, as soon as I get up to go check it again, it's going to come on. Maybe if I shut the case door. We'll shut the case door. Oh, but I have a lot of reflection. Oh. Anyhow. Here we go. So there's a big difference. That's 2 D5s running at 100% RPM. So my head pressure is like, it's a bit higher than a single DDC. And the flow rate's also much higher. But when you do D5s in serial, you only pick up head pressure. You don't double the flow rate. Yeah. Okay. If you do D5s in parallel, you pick up flow rate. You don't pick up head pressure. It's my understanding. But yeah, you're not gonna see the temp drop here. It's still 41 degrees in the core, but I already have the footage and ample. I'll show you what it looks like when you have a game that runs at. Oh, there, I did it right there. It went from 41 to 38. But that's nothing, dude. I have. You got to see Port Royal. Port Royal's crazy. Let me exit out of here. I'll show you Port Royal. You're going to see it later on because I'm going to add this to the other video. Actually, I don't know if I should make this as a separate video or what. A part 1, and then we're going to have a part 2. But Port Royal is really... I'll show you the data for Port Royal. I'll pull that up. Yeah, it's a 5-degree temperature drop. I was blown away by this. I was like, oh my God. Yeah, between 40% and... so we'll go here, load. Yeah, stress tests. I've been doing this every morning. Details, GPU. So right here, the dark blue, right? It's like at 43, 43, 44, 44, right? 44, 45, 45, 45, boom. This is when the pump, right? That backplate gets up to 30 degrees and the pump turns on from 40% to 100% RPM. Those two D5s. Watch this. 45, 40. And it says 41, 42 throughout the duration. So, I mean, the argument I've heard was that flow rate doesn't really matter. And it matters. The question is there a big difference between like 60 or 70% and 100% RPM? For me, the reason why I'm running it at 100% RPM is because for whatever reason, these D5s have a nicer acoustic profile, right? Much more subdued. It's actually quieter at 100% RPM versus 60 or 70% RPM. I don't know why. If I run these D5s at 60 or 70% RPM, there's a nasty buzz to them. Whereas if I run them at 100% RPM, it's like a more high-pitched whine, but it's much more pleasant, much less noticeable. But at 40% RPM, it's completely inaudible. Like, it's completely inaudible. Anyways, I got to end the video because I'm coming up on 10 minutes again. Thanks for letting me ramble on. Like and subscribe. I'm gonna make more content. I have F1 2019 video content and Metro Exodus if you guys are interested.